Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are coming to the end of these 4 weeks, and for some of you these 2 weeks. If you are still eating or drinking, please carry on. I like a tough crowd. Okay, once again, for those who've been here all 4 weeks of the course, hello. And for those of you I'm seeing for the first time, who've just been here for 2 weeks, I'd just like to introduce myself. I'm Andy Thompson. I'm Director of Oxford Myrtle Education Services, which basically looks after young people from as young as GCSE, age 15, 16, through A-levels, IB age 17, 18, and into university and beyond as well, doing a number of things, a little bit like Summer Academy, developing all of those other aspects that lie outside of formal study. I've just been on a very interesting chat with David at dinner about this kind of thing, I think, as well, about all the other things that it's interesting to learn about and all the skills that you're seeking to develop as you go forward. I've had a long association, both with Oxford Summer Academy and also with Oxford International College for some 20 years now. The Summer Academy in its 9th year this year, so next year's a very special year when the Academy turns 10. And it was a great privilege for me in 2014 and 2015, the 4th and 5th years of the Summer Academy, to actually direct the course and spend all 4 weeks of each of those summers with the students who came. And I have to say, I think those of you here a couple of weeks ago will remember me saying it really was the most pleasurable part of what for me is now turning into quite a long career in education. And I hope it's been an exciting couple of weeks for you all here. What was I thinking about this week? Well, we had the 50th anniversary of the moon landings. Yeah? Did it happen? My daughter's a great one for the conspiracy theory that it didn't actually happen. Well, I sort of remember it happening because I was thinking about it because I watched it on black and white TV in 1969 when I was 8. I was with my grandfather, and I remember going outside with him after we'd watched it on TV to look at the moon. And it was a weird thought to think that there were people on the moon at that point. So what seems perhaps another historical event, I think back in 1969, was a kind of a huge thing. It was also, when you were 8 in 1969, very frustrating because the real world of TV was far more exciting than landing on the moon, because we had things like Star Trek, which was very much in colour and very, very exciting, and we had things like Doctor Who, and all sorts of things were possible for us, it seemed. And I remember being very impatient and thinking, when are we going to go to Mars? When is this going to happen? When is that going to happen? And I think I kind of missed the magic, aged 8. Now I'm in middle age, and I feel much closer to my grandfather and what his experience must have been like at that time. My grandfather was born in 1894. There was no cinema, there was no TV, there were no x-rays. You couldn't drive a car, you couldn't fly a plane, there were even no Beliebers at the time. No Justin Bieber at the time. The year my grandfather was born, in the north of England, which is somewhere up there, here in Oxford, a physicist, Sir Oliver Lodge, sent the first ever message by radio wave. So I think, what must my grandfather have thought to be standing, age 74, with his grandson, watching men land on the moon? I should also say about my granddad, he wasn't very tall. And this meant that in 1914, my government said he was not tall enough to be shot at in a world war, so they wouldn't let him go and fight because he was too short. However, by 1960, my government changed its mind and decided that he was tall enough to be shot at. And this was largely, of course, because we were running out of young men to be shot at. We live in a much better age now, I think, don't we? My grandfather survived for 2 years on the Western Front in a war that claimed more than 15 million. So I say this because I think Grandad saw horrors as well as great and wonderful changes. And I think he looked at me and my generation and saw young people who would have happier, much more fulfilled lives, better than his. And I'm eternally grateful because I think it's proved to be the case. I don't want to be gloomy by talking about things like that, but I say it because tonight you're all leaving. And this particular group of people, me included, and the wonderful people who have looked after you, will probably never be together quite in this way again. But we are tonight. So it's very special, as all these moments are. And this is a moment I think that will live in your memories for a long, long time, these last 2 weeks, and being with these new friends that you've made here. We live in an age of amazing technological advance. What would my grandfather think now to come back to us 125 years after his birth? Might he be saddened to see we still face challenges we should by now have met as humankind? So you leave us to go home and this international gathering breaks up. We had a change of Prime Minister this week and we face change and further international departure if we go through with Brexit and change our relationship to Europe. But your generation, I think, will remind mine that there is even bigger change to face, and the challenge of world climate is vast when compared with the pettiness of national and international difference. In Crisis in 1939, again, my granddad's Britain, our Europe, our world. One of our great poets, W.H. Auden, who was very much a poet of this city. He studied at Christ Church College, which some of you may have visited, and he was eventually professor of poetry, and he used to teach at the little coffee house on the corner here. He used to take his students out and teach them at the coffee house that you walk past every day when you've come into St Edmund Hall. And he felt that we were facing a kind of new dark age, and he was very much in despair in 1939 and wrote a very wonderful poem. What's also wonderful about the poem is, while it's about despair, it's also about hope. And the hope, I think, for Auden in the poem lay with individuals who can be awakened into life and thought and passion. And that, I think, through the same improvements that my grandfather looked for, improvements of education and so on. Perhaps ordinary individuals, I think, for Auden, ordinary individuals, you, me, might write themselves larger through the promise of those radio waves sent first here in Oxford. Auden talks of tired politicians churning out the same old speeches and routines. He says in the poem, and helpless governors wake to resume their compulsory game. Who can release them now? Who can reach the deaf? Who can speak for the dumb? He says. And he answers his question. He says, all I have is a voice to undo the folded lie. The folded lie. Do we still run into those folded lies? We live in an age where the individual intelligence can seem overwhelmed by the folded lies of ignorant authority, and where we might all feel we can do so little that all of these wonderful things we teach you, that learning can be maybe arcane, maybe obscure, and maybe learning can be sidestepped and discarded, that learning isn't perhaps as valued as it should be by some politicians in our modern world. Truth through understanding the genuine complexity of things can be swallowed in a soundbite or shouted down by a tweet with the power of a presidency behind it. But I would say to you that it is the intelligent, painstaking work, and I've heard so much about the wonderful work you've done in this your holiday, on top of everything else that you do through the school, through the academic year. The work you do on all these essays and preparations for public speaking, and the projects and the field work and the at times mind-numbing files on spreadsheets. We've all been there, haven't we? We have to put those numbers in the boxes. And photographs, the wonderful things that happen. Those are what really matter. So what I'm saying is go out and know that despite the negatives in the world, you change the world. And you change the world actually not by the eureka moment each time you succeed, but by all the little moments that led to that moment. The slow, the dedicated resolution to the work we each choose to devote ourselves to in our chosen field. You change the world by how you interact with, affect, and are influenced by your colleagues and the wider community. Every interaction with a bus driver, a shop assistant, the person standing next to you in a post office queue. I believe we're only at the beginning of what's possible with the internet, and you are teaching my generation to move past things, to foreground experience and expression, to go to a different kind of moon 50 years on, and to do more. Last time I was here, some of you may remember, I asked two questions. Questions I've been asking students for years. Every time we have a moment of success, when I ran a college in Oxford, a sixth form college, where are we going today, and how far can we go? Those two questions. And in a way, Auden, at the end of his poem, answers my questions, and not in sadness. He says, beginning in sadness, defenceless under the night, Our world in stupor lies. Yet, dotted everywhere, ironic points of light flash out wherever the just exchange their messages. May I, he says, compose like them of eros, of love and emotions, and dust, I'm human being, I'm flesh, he says, beleaguered by the same negation and despair, show an affirming flame. Like the torrent of likes that descend on a simple statement of truth online, the torchlight of a camera held up in affirmation at a gig, keep doing what you are doing, keep on keeping on, show the affirming flame. Next year is a big year, as I said, for OSA. Number 10, come again. Tell all your friends, get them to come. Enjoy yourselves tonight in these last moments together. Keep it all alive online. Keep it all again alive by meeting up with friends again, new friends that you've made here. Celebrate your time with us. I must close by saying thank you to more or less everybody. You're in a wonderful college. I think we've had a wonderful meal tonight, and I know the staff are really, really friendly here. And Sue McCarthy in the conference office I've known for years, and she does everything to make something wonderful happen. So we're very, very grateful to Teddy Hall, a very loved Oxford institution. Extremely grateful to the wonderful people who ignite your enthusiasm in that great tennis match that occurs of academia. Yes, good teachers are made by good students. You need Nadal on the other side of the net for Federer. Apologies to any Djokovic or Murray fans. I'd like to thank all the staff who've looked after you here, Antonia and the team, Ents and everything, and looking after you in the evening. And Sarah, thank you so much for everything. Rafi, wonderful, and nice to see you carrying on a very fine tradition here. And absent, but I think you've seen him at least once during the last 4 weeks, my dear friend Mario Peters, whose brainchild OSA very much is. And I think one of the most beautiful things about working with Mario over the years is the constant enthusiasm that he engenders in other people. He's never forgotten that that's our primary role in education, to engage and to engender good things. Right, you've listened to me long enough. I'm going to give you some certificates to say thank you and well done for the course. I've looked through the names and they're not quite as scary as they were 2 weeks ago in terms of pronunciation, so I'm feeling relatively confident. And Sarah, I'm so sorry. Sarah, thank you, Sarah, for everything that you've done for everybody over the last 4 weeks as well. Okay, first up we have Anastasios Andreou. And you've been on the Young Executive Programme. Just turn and face the camera there. There we are. Lovely. Well done. Thank you. And Andreas Wallner. Congratulations. And the Young Executive Programme as well, I think. Yeah. Yeah. Fantastic. David Reyes Medina. And David also has been on the Young Executive Programme, a very popular option. And thank you for being such a wonderful dinner companion tonight as well, David. Really nice to meet you. Thank you. Thank you. Edouard Clermont. Device programming. Sounds fantastic. Yeah. Fantastic. I've had a good 2 weeks. Yes. That's good. Yixian Emily Kuan. Lovely to see you. Just smile. Congratulations. And Gabriana Amandine Abmoduki. Gabriana, congratulations. You need to have one of this. Hania Abbas. So psychology and philosophy. Fantastic, very exciting group of mind. And Isabel Duboff. Isabel, Young Doctor Programme. Yes, yeah. Hope that's been helpful for taking your medical career forward. Good luck.
Thank you.
Jada Kimchi. Congratulations. And the Young Lawyer Programme while you've been here, yeah? Wonderful. And Jonathan's son? Also on the Young Doctor Programme, yeah? I hope it's been really helpful and very interesting. Lovely time. Kathleen Push. We're old friends, aren't we? Nice to see you again. Has it been good? What have you been doing this last fortnight?
I've done psychology and philosophy and
Fantastic.
wait. Oh wait, it was profile of personality.
Oh. Well,
Thank you.
Wonderful. Olivia Ingrid Sam. And the Young Executive Programme. Yeah, hope that's been really helpful for you. Lovely to have you with us. Raphael. So PPE, yeah? You've come to the right place. Congratulations, Raphael. Samuel Fish. It's a very fine shirt, young man. Great admirer all that. Hope you enjoyed the Young Doctor Programme. Sukon Hong. Sukon, to the Young Executive Programme, yeah? Hope that's been really useful and enjoyable for you. Sure. Nice to see you. And Theodora Andreu. Have I forgotten anybody? Rafi, would you like a certificate? I'm going to hand over to Antonia now because Antonia, I think you've got another certificate to give out, haven't you?
Not a certificate to get. So, last night we awarded Raphael the best speaker at the debate for providing us not only with lively and engaged dialogue, but also a graph. So, on that note, would you like to come and receive your gift? For those of you that can't see, this is a very short introduction to human rights, which I felt was very appropriate. Thank you. That's all right.
Fantastic, thank you everybody. Any announcements, Rafi, or anything that needs to...
Just a couple of acknowledgements that same drill as last week, but probably two people other than the people that have already been mentioned in this room that pull the whole course together really, which is Kirsty, who basically runs everything on the ground for you guys and knows a hell of a lot more than I do about the ins and outs of understanding not only every single one of your names within probably 30 seconds of meeting all of you, but today when we were putting together the list of who's studying what, she managed to reel off exactly what every single one of you was studying for both 2-week blocks, and it's just she cares about you guys more than you know. So bit of credit to Kirsty, and then Jen, who does all of the behind the scenes for months and months and months before you guys even get here, everything down to the trips and how the lessons work, timetabling, everything that happens is here because of Jen. So I think just a round of applause for both of those. I think finally, just thanks for coming. It's been a quieter 2 weeks. I think we've lost a few Americans this block, but it's been a really good time, and I hope you guys. I hope some of you will recommend people coming back or come back yourselves. It'd be really good to see you again. So yeah, thank you.